Naval Station Rota Spain hit different in August. The kind of heat that made your skin blister and your throat parch with every breath. Humidity that could rust metal overnight and sun that hadn't stopped blazing for 5 weeks straight. Most sailors complained constantly about the conditions. But Maya Chen just adjusted her uniform and kept working. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. At 31, Maya looked more like a graduate student than a military medic. Slender build, maybe 5 feet 6 inches in boots, with thin rectangular glasses that constantly slipped down her nose. Her black hair was always pulled back in a neat bun that sat precisely at the nape of her neck. Everything about her screamed, efficient but unremarkable, which was exactly how everyone treated her. "Morning, Chen," Commander Vasquez would call out as she organized medical supplies before dawn. "You sure you don't need help with those boxes? Looks heavy for someone your size." She'd just smile, adjust her glasses, and keep working. Never complained, never asked for easier assignments. While other medics rotated shifts, Maya volunteered for the emergency ward during hurricane season. While others socialized in the rec room, she spent her free time inventorying pharmaceuticals that wasn't even her responsibility. The veterans found her reliable. "Sweet little thing," they'd say. Probably never raised her voice in her life. They were protective of her in that patronizing way that made Maya's jaw clench, though she never let it show. What they didn't see were the notebooks she kept. Pages and pages of ocean current diagrams, dive tables, and underwater rescue protocols, drawn with the precision of a naval architect. Late at night in her quarters, she'd sketch pressure calculations and emergency decompression formulas by reading light. One afternoon, the base's decompression chamber malfunctioned. The pressure regulator had corroded, and the maintenance crew was stumped. Maya happened to be walking by when she heard them arguing about the problem. "Excuse me," she said softly, pushing her glasses up. "Mind if I take a look?" Petty Officer First Class Ramirez laughed. "Chen, honey, this is high-pressure equipment. You'll get hurt." But she was already kneeling by the open panel, her slender fingers tracing the valves with surgical precision. Within 15 minutes, she'd identified the problem and recalibrated the regulator. The chamber hummed to life. Ramirez stared. "How did you know to do that?" "I used to study this stuff," Maya said quietly, wiping her hands on her pants. "But I quit halfway through." Nobody asked why. They just assumed she wasn't smart enough to finish, that she'd hit her limit, and settled for medical work instead. The truth was buried somewhere in her personnel file, a file nobody had bothered to read in 6 years. Base Commander Captain Harrington walked by her table in the mess hall one evening. Maya was alone as usual, sketching dive patterns on a napkin, while picking at her dinner. "Interesting hobby," Harrington said, glancing at her drawings. "Just helps me think, sir," Maya replied quickly, folding the napkin. What she didn't tell him was that every calculation, every depth measurement, every decompression stage was textbook perfect, the kind of precision that would make dive instructors weep with pride. At night, when the base grew quiet and most sailors were asleep, Maya would walk to the marina. She'd stand next to the rescue boats, running her hands along the hulls like she was greeting old friends. The night security thought it was cute, the little medic with her boat obsession. They had no idea she knew every valve, every pump, every system in those vessels better than they did. Her roommate, Petty Officer Second Class Layla Jackson, asked her once, "Why don't you ever talk about before the Navy, like where you grew up, what you did?" Maya adjusted her glasses and pulled her blanket higher. "Some things are better left buried, Lay. But buried doesn't mean forgotten, right?" "No," Maya whispered in the dark. "Forgotten doesn't mean gone." Because when 12 sailors would be trapped in a submerged submarine with oxygen running out, and every qualified rescue diver was deployed elsewhere, the quiet girl with the perfect bun would prove that some people don't need permission to save lives. They just need the chance. August 17th, 2:13 hours. The emergency alarm cut through the pre-dawn darkness like a siren. Maya jolted awake in her bunk, immediately alert. Around her, other sailors groaned and rolled over, but she was already pulling on her uniform. Level 1 emergency meant someone was dying. She ran across the compound, her breath quick in the humid air. The operations center was chaos. Radios crackling, officers shouting coordinates. The big situation board already marked with red emergency markers. "What's the situation?" she asked communications specialist Thompson. "Bad one," Thompson said grimly. "Training submarine Neptune went down during night maneuvers about 90 minutes ago. 12 crew members trapped. Engine failure. Then the emergency surfacing mechanism jammed. They're stuck at 120 feet with depleting oxygen." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Maya looked at the marine display. Rough seas, visibility less than 15 feet, strong currents sweeping through the area. Where are our rescue divers? That's the problem. Jenkins and Martinez are deployed with a carrier group in the Persian Gulf. Our backup team is en route, but won't be here for at least 5 hours. Maya felt her stomach drop. In these conditions, 5 hours might as well be 5 days. She slipped out of the operations center and headed to the equipment room, where she'd been inventorying dive gear earlier. The rescue apparatus she'd been checking sat ready. Tanks filled, regulators checked, underwater communication devices charged. Her hands moved automatically, checking air levels, inspecting masks, testing emergency beacon equipment. Everything she'd learned in another life, in a training program she'd never officially completed. Chen. Chief Petty Officer Santos appeared behind her. "What are you doing?" She turned, her face calm but determined. "I can perform this rescue, Chief." Santos blinked, then he laughed. "Honey, you're a medic. This isn't a swimming pool. 12 people are going to die if we don't get to them in the next 3 hours, she said quietly. Every qualified rescue diver is deployed elsewhere. Even if you knew how to dive, which you don't, you're not authorized. You don't have clearance. You're not certified for rescue operations. Maya was already walking toward the operations center. I know, but they're dying. She pushed through the doors to find Lieutenant Commander Rivera, the operations coordinator, reviewing sonar images with the rescue team over the radio. Lieutenant Commander, she said, I can perform the submarine rescue. Rivera looked up from his maps, annoyed at the interruption. Excuse me? The dive equipment in Bay 4. I can use it to reach Neptune and help stabilize their situation until the backup team arrives. The room went quiet. Rivera looked her up and down, taking in her slender frame, her rectangular glasses, her composed demeanor. Then he smiled like she'd just told the world's funniest joke. Chen, you're a backup medic. You don't have any dive clearance. Step aside and let the professionals handle this. Maya didn't argue. She just pushed her glasses up, tightened her bun, and walked quietly toward the door. Rivera called after her. Where are you going? She paused. To do what needs to be done. By the time Rivera realized she wasn't heading back to her quarters, Maya was already at the marina, entering her access code into the equipment locker. The small rescue boat engine fired up, the navigation system began tracking, and everyone watching went silent. The radio crackled to life with Rivera's furious voice. Chen, return to base immediately. You are not authorized. Maya's voice came back through the headset, calm and professional. Sir, if I don't dive now, those 12 sailors will be dead before backup arrives. You're not qualified. Qualification doesn't stop asphyxiation, sir. Rivera grabbed the radio so hard his knuckles went white. Around him, the operations room had gone completely silent. Through the monitors, they could see the small figure on the boat running through pre-dive checks with mechanical precision. Jesus Christ, whispered Thompson. She actually knows what she's doing. Chief Santos burst into the room. Lieutenant Commander, she just performed a perfect emergency boat launch sequence in under 2 minutes. In these conditions, I've been maintaining these vessels for 12 years, and I've never seen anyone prep that fast. Rivera stared at the monitor. How is that possible? I don't know, but whoever taught her was special operations. High-level special operations. Maya's communications officer, Specialist Patel, looked up from her computer terminal. Sir, I pulled her personnel file. There's a classification flag on her service record. What kind of flag? The kind that means someone important wanted her background buried. The boat was positioned above the submarine's last known location. His gaze found her across the room, and a smirk crossed his face. He said something to his entourage that caused them to laugh while looking in her direction. "Ignore him," Reyes advised. "He's not worth it." But Shaw was already making his way toward their table, his posture radiating smug confidence. "Well, if it isn't Lieutenant Chen. Still analyzing data nobody cares about?" Eliza met his gaze calmly. "Commander Shaw, I see you're still confusing leadership with popularity." His smile tightened. "At least I still have my command position. How's the view from the Strategic Assessment Department? Must be nice and quiet, with all that time to think about how you threw away your career." "I'd rather lose my rank than lose a ship," Eliza replied evenly. Shaw leaned down, placing his hands on the table. "You know what your problem is, Chen? You think you're smarter than everyone else. That your precious analysis trumps experience and chain of command. But the Navy runs on orders, not theories. The Navy runs on protecting lives and completing the mission," Eliza corrected. "Sometimes that requires thinking beyond orders." Shaw straightened, his expression hardening. "And that right there is why you'll never command again. The Admiralty doesn't want freethinkers. They want officers who follow protocol. Is that what you tell yourself to justify blindly following orders you know are wrong?" The mess hall had grown quiet, other officers watching the confrontation with poorly disguised interest. Shaw's face flushed with anger. "You're pathetic, Chen. Clinging to your self-righteousness while your career circles the drain. Everyone knows you're finished in the Navy." Reyes stood up. "That's enough, Commander. You've made your point." Shaw glanced at Reyes, then back at Eliza. "You know what they call her behind her back?" "Career suicide, Chen." The officer too smart for her own good. He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Chen? The fleet deployment you've been so obsessively tracking. We're running silent drills tomorrow. Proper chain of command, proper protocols. The way the Navy is supposed to work." After he left, the mess hall gradually returned to its normal volume. Reyes sat back down, concern etched on her face. "You okay?" "I'm fine." Eliza's voice was steady, but her hands had clenched into fists beneath the table. Shaw always was threatened by anyone who outperformed him. He's tactical officer on the Lincoln now. Whatever you think of him personally, he has the Admiralty's ear. Eliza nodded, processing this information. The Lincoln was leading tomorrow's deployment, which meant Shaw would be overseeing the tactical operations, including response patterns to submarine contact. "I need to get back to the control center," she said suddenly, standing up. "Chen, what are you thinking?" Reyes looked alarmed. "Whatever it is, don't. You're already on thin ice." "I just need to check something in the deployment orders." Eliza gathered her tray. Nothing inappropriate. Reyes didn't look convinced, but she didn't try to stop her. "Just remember what I said. Some battles aren't worth fighting." Back in the control center, the night shift was settling in. Lieutenant Commander Wallace was still there, reviewing intelligence reports at his station. He looked up as Eliza approached. "Thought you were off duty," he remarked. "I need to check something in tomorrow's deployment parameters." Eliza kept her voice casual. "Mind if I use your terminal? Mine's logged out for maintenance." Wallace hesitated, then nodded. "5 minutes. I'm going for coffee." Once he was gone, Eliza quickly accessed the tactical deployment plans for the following day. The carrier group would be conducting anti-submarine warfare drills in the exact area where she'd identified the unusual submarine activity. That couldn't be coincidence. She dug deeper, examining the patrol patterns and response protocols. The standard formation would place the destroyers in a screening position, with the Lincoln at the center of the formation. But with the submarine activity she'd been tracking, that formation would be vulnerable to— "Finding anything interesting, Lieutenant?" Eliza turned to find Captain Harlow standing behind her, arms crossed. She hadn't heard him approach. "Sir, I was reviewing tomorrow's deployment patterns to complete my analysis. Your analysis was due at 1,800 hours, and that's not your terminal. Lieutenant Commander Wallace gave me permission while my station is under maintenance." Harlow's expression hardened. "You were specifically instructed not to access tactical deployment plans without direct authorization from me." "Sir, with respect, my strategic assessment role requires understanding of tactical deployments. Maya's voice came through the radio again. Operations. This is Rescue 1, requesting final coordinates for Neptune. Rivera hesitated. His career could end with one wrong decision. But 12 sailors were dying out there beneath the waves, and his qualified rescue team was hours away. Patel looked up again. Sir, I managed to access part of her restricted file. And? Maya Chen didn't quit dive training. She was the top student in her class. Perfect scores in deep water rescue, emergency medicine, and high-stress operations. Rivera felt his world tilt. Then why? Until she disobeyed a direct order. Performed an unauthorized rescue mission to save civilians trapped in a collapsed underwater cave during a hurricane. Saved 9 people, including 2 children. And she was quietly dismissed from the program? Officially for insubordination, unofficially. Patel paused. Because she embarrassed superior officers who had refused to authorize the rescue. Rivera stared at the file on Patel's screen. The classified sections were still blocked, but what he could see painted a picture of the most gifted rescue diver the Navy had ever trained. She was the best they'd ever seen, Patel continued, and now she's diving into dangerous waters to save 12 people she's never met. Without clearance, without backup, without fear. Rivera grabbed his radio. His hands were shaking. Rescue 1, you are cleared for emergency operation. Transmitting Neptune's exact coordinates now. As Maya's boat disappeared into the distance, Rivera turned to his communications officer. Pull everything on Chen. Every file, every record, every classified document. I want to know who she really is. The next 4 hours were the longest of Rivera's career. Sporadic radio contact, interrupted by water depth and weather conditions, told a story of a woman moving with incredible speed and precision through impossible circumstances. Maya had reached the submarine, established communication, cleared the jammed surfacing mechanism, administered emergency oxygen to the most critical sailors, all while battling currents that would have swept away less experienced divers. When the backup team finally arrived, they found her inside the submarine, treating the last sailor for decompression sickness, as calm as if she were bandaging a scraped knee in the medical bay. 3 hours later, Patel returned, her face pale. Sir, you need to see this. The classified file told a different story entirely. Maya hadn't been just any dive student. She'd been recruited straight out of Civilian Maritime Academy for a special operations program. Deep water rescue in hostile environments. The kind of diving that required nerves of steel and skills that bordered on supernatural. She had performed rescue missions in the South China Sea that nobody else would attempt. Saved over 300 lives in 2 years. Until the night she was ordered to abandon a civilian rescue during a typhoon. She was told to prioritize military personnel only. But she disobeyed, Patel read, dove into 30-foot swells and extracted 9 civilians from a partially submerged cave system that was rapidly flooding. And her commanding officer wrote her up for insubordination, said she was emotionally compromised and unable to follow orders. He'd already told the media that the civilians were unreachable. Rivera understood now, so they buried her. Reassigned her to medical support, stripped her dive status, made sure she'd never dive again, except she just did, like she never stopped. Maya performed 3 more dives that day, working alongside the backup team to stabilize the submarine and prepare it for towing. She moved through the water with a grace that made the other divers look like beginners. Every motion efficient, every decision perfect, every life saved. When she finally returned to base, soaking wet and exhausted, Rivera was waiting. In my office. Now. She followed him silently, her face unreadable. She stood at attention, water still dripping from her uniform. Explain yourself, Rivera demanded. The submarine was in distress. I have the skills to help. I helped. You directly disobeyed my orders. Yes, sir. You undertook a highly dangerous rescue operation without clearance. Yes, sir. You accessed equipment you weren't authorized to use. Yes, sir. Rivera stared at her for a long moment. "Show me your right forearm." Maya hesitated, then slowly rolled up her sleeve. There, inked in black against her skin, was a simple tattoo. A series of tally marks grouped in sets of 5, precisely aligned in rows. At the bottom, in small script, not numbers, names. Rivera counted the marks. "There are 200 here." 217, sir. What do they represent? Quote, Maya met his eyes directly for perhaps the first time since she'd arrived at Naval Station Rota. "Lives. One for each person I've pulled from the water. Including today. I'll add those tonight." Rivera sat down heavily in his chair. "Your file says you've saved over 1,000 people." "Yes, sir." "Then why only 217 marks?" Maya rolled her sleeve back down. "The tattoo only counts the ones where someone said no. Where I was told not to try. Where I had to choose between orders and lives." The implications of that statement hung in the air between them. "You were the Navy's best rescue diver. I was a good diver who couldn't follow bad orders." Rivera opened a drawer and pulled out a form. "I'm supposed to file charges against you." "I understand, sir. 12 sailors are alive because of you. The captain of Neptune says you single-handedly prevented a catastrophe. He says you moved through that submarine like you designed it yourself." Maya said nothing. "Did you? Design submarines?" "No, sir. But I studied them. Every class, every system, every emergency protocol." "While you were being a medic?" "Yes, sir. Because you never stopped being who you really are." For the first time, Maya smiled. "Just slightly. No one can stop being who they really are, sir. They can only pretend." Rivera tore the charge form in half. "I made some calls while you were saving those sailors. Reached some people who remember you. People who were ashamed of how you were treated." He pulled another document from his desk. "Effective immediately. You're being reassigned to the Naval Special Warfare Rescue Division. Full dive status restored. Commendation for extraordinary courage under impossible conditions. And a promotion to lieutenant." Maya stared at the papers. "The review board read your complete file," Rivera continued. "All of it. Including the parts that were classified to protect certain officers' reputations. Your dismissal from the dive program was politically motivated. This is us fixing a mistake that should never have happened." Maya touched the papers lightly, as if she couldn't quite believe they were real. "Sir, Will you accept the transfer, Chen?" She looked at her sleeve, where beneath the fabric, the record of her defiance was permanently marked on her skin. "Are there people who need saving?" "Always." "Then yes, sir." But the real justice came the next day, when Rivera received another call from headquarters. Captain Elliott, the officer who had ordered Maya's dismissal 6 years ago, was being quietly reassigned to a desk job in procurement. No ceremony, no fanfare. Just a sudden transfer that everyone understood meant his career was effectively over. "Someone finally read the after-action reports from the South China Sea," the admiral told Rivera. Turns out Elliott had denied several rescue requests for political reasons. Cost lives. The Chen incident was just the tip of the iceberg. Rivera felt a grim satisfaction. What happens now? Now Chen gets to do what she was born to do. And Elliott gets to count life preservers for the rest of his career. Word spread quickly through the base. The quiet medic who dived into treacherous waters wasn't just a hero. She was a decorated rescue specialist whose career had been derailed by a corrupt officer. The same officer who was now being held accountable for his actions. Junior officers started requesting transfers to Rota, hoping to train under Maya. The base commander approved the construction of a new underwater rescue training facility specializing in extreme condition operations. They named it the Chen Training Center. Petty Officer Jackson, Maya's former roommate, found her packing her few belongings. "You never told me you were a rescue diver," Jackson said. "You never asked," Maya replied, folding her old medic uniforms. "Besides, I was a real medic too. Both things can be true." "Will you miss this place?" Maya looked around the small room that had been her home for 6 years. "I'll miss the people, but I won't miss hiding who I am." She left her notebook on the desk for the next medic. On the last page she'd written, "Your rank doesn't determine your worth. Your willingness to act when others won't determines your legacy." That night, alone in her quarters, Maya rolled up her sleeve. She took out the small kit she kept hidden in her footlocker. With practiced precision, she added 12 new marks to her tattoo. Not just ink on skin, but a permanent record of defiance, of putting lives above orders, of being exactly who she was meant to be, regardless of what anyone said she could or couldn't do. 2 months later, Maya stood in the briefing room of the Naval Special Warfare Rescue Division in San Diego. The walls were covered with photos of successful missions, maps of impossible terrain, and commendations for valor. This was where the military's best rescue specialists came to push the boundaries of what was possible. "Your first mission," said Commander Wilson, the division leader, "is a training exercise. Research vessel in distress off the coast of Hawaii. Weather conditions are marginal, but it's within acceptable parameters." Maya studied the weather reports. "Sir, these conditions aren't marginal. They're severe. 20-foot swells, visibility under 10 feet, with an approaching storm system." "Which is why we're sending our best diver," Wilson said with a slight smile. "Think you can handle it?" For the first time in 6 years, Maya was being asked to do what she did best, with full authority and complete support. "Yes, sir." The mission went flawlessly. Maya extracted 4 stranded researchers from a vessel that other divers had deemed unreachable. Her technique, a combination of precision diving and tactical medicine, was filmed for training purposes. "That's not standard procedure," observed Lieutenant Reed, one of the division's senior divers, after watching the footage. "No," agreed Wilson. "It's better than standard." Word of Maya's skills spread throughout the naval community. She began receiving requests for consultation on impossible rescues, training seminars for extreme condition diving, and invitations to speak at maritime academies. But the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. A letter arrived, forwarded through military channels, postmarked from the Philippines. It was written in careful English by a woman named Isabel Torres. "Dear Miss Chen," it read, "you saved my family from the cave in Palawan 6 years ago. My son Marco was only 4 then. He is now 10 and wants to become a rescue diver like the American woman who dove into danger to save people she had never met. I thought you should know that your courage inspired more than just one rescue. It inspired a life." Maya read the letter 3 times before carefully folding it and placing it in her desk drawer, next to her commendation. Commander Wilson found her there an hour later, staring out the window at the ocean. "Regrets?" he asked. "No," she said quietly. "I was just thinking about all the people who told me I couldn't dive, that I wasn't qualified, wasn't strong enough, wasn't the right kind of person." She touched her sleeve, where beneath the fabric the record of her choices was permanently marked. "And they were wrong about everything except one thing. I'm not the right kind of person to follow orders when people are dying." Wilson nodded. "That's exactly why you're here." That evening, Maya called Lieutenant Commander Rivera at Rota. "How's the new medic working out?" "Good, but she asks a lot of questions about you. Wants to know how you knew so much about submarine systems." "What did you tell her?" "That some people are exactly who they appear to be, and others are who they need to be when the moment comes." 6 months later, Maya received an emergency call. Rota was requesting immediate assistance. A research submarine had become entangled in an old fishing net at extreme depth. 8 civilians trapped. Conditions even worse than before. "Weather's impossible," Rivera's voice crackled over the satellite phone. "Current speeds exceeding regulatory limits. Our divers can't get clearance to go." Maya looked at Commander Wilson. He nodded. "Tell them we're en route," she said. This time, she wasn't diving alone. Lieutenant Reed volunteered as her partner, and the division's best medic, Chief Petty Officer Zhang, handled the medical equipment. They launched into conditions that would have grounded any civilian operation. As they approached Rota, Maya could see the entire base gathered on the pier. The same people who had watched her dive without authorization now watched her return as the Navy's premier rescue specialist. Rivera met them as they arrived. "Good to see you again, Lieutenant Chen." "Good to be back, Lieutenant Commander." The rescue operation was textbook perfect. All 8 civilians extracted safely. Medical treatment provided on site. No complications. But as they prepared to depart, Rivera handed Maya a package from the base crew. "Small token of appreciation," he said. Inside was a photograph. Maya in the dive gear during that first rescue. Hair coming loose from her bun, glasses missing, but her expression calm and determined. Below it, an inscription. She doesn't need to prove herself. She already dove when nobody else dared. That night, back in San Diego, Maya found herself in the division's ready room, surrounded by photos of successful missions and the faces of divers who'd pushed the boundaries of possibility. On her desk, next to the letter from the Philippines and her military commendations, she placed the photograph from Rota. Lieutenant Reed stopped by. "You know what I realized today?" "What's that?" "When we first met, I thought you were just another good diver who'd gotten a second chance. But watching you work, reading your files, you're not a diver who learned to be a medic. You're a healer who learned to dive." Maya considered this. Maybe that's why I couldn't leave those people in that submarine. It wasn't about diving. It was about the promise every medic makes. First, do no harm. Sometimes that means doing something harmful people tell you not to do, Reed added. And sometimes it means diving into rough waters when everyone says you can't, or shouldn't. Maya nodded. There's a difference. Commander Wilson joined them. Speaking of rough waters, we have another impossible mission tomorrow. Scientists trapped in an underwater research station off Alaska. Weather conditions are... He paused, challenging Maya. Maya smiled the same quiet smile that had puzzled her colleagues at Rota. "When do we launch?" "Oh, 600 hours. Think you can handle it?" She stood, gathering her dive manuals. "Sir, I've been handling impossible missions my whole career. The only difference now is that I have permission." As she walked toward the door, Wilson called after her. "Chen?" "Yes, sir?" "For what it's worth, some of us always knew you had permission. It just took the rest of the world a while to catch up." Outside, waves were beginning to crash against the seawall. Not the violent seas of her first rescue, but the steady, powerful rhythm of the Pacific. Maya walked to the equipment room where her dive gear waited, ready for tomorrow's mission. She placed her hand on the tank, the same gesture she'd made countless times in Rota when she thought nobody was watching. The difference was that now she wasn't hiding who she was. In her pocket, her phone buzzed with a text message from Jackson, still stationed at Rota. "Saw the news about your rescue today. The new medics here all want to learn to dive. You started something." Maya typed back. "Tell them diving isn't about rank or clearance. It's about being willing to go deeper when others say the water's too rough." She looked out at the ocean where tomorrow's mission waited. Somewhere out there, people needed saving. And for the first time in 6 years, she was exactly where she belonged. Not hiding in the shadows, but ready to dive into whatever storm came next. The world was full of quiet people doing extraordinary things. Teachers who could build, mechanics who could lead, medics who could dive. They weren't waiting for permission, they were waiting for the moment when someone needed saving. And when that moment came, they wouldn't ask if they were qualified. They would just ask, "If I don't do this, who will?" Sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones nobody notices until the storm hits. And they're the only ones willing to dive into it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Heroes community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world. Maya Chen's tattoo wasn't just ink on skin. It was a ledger of defiance, a permanent record of lives she'd chosen over orders. As she sat in Commander Wilson's office at Naval Special Warfare Rescue Division headquarters, she traced the newest marks with her fingertip, 12 fresh tallies still slightly raised on her forearm. "Tell me about the first one," Wilson said, nodding toward her arm. Maya rarely spoke about her tattoo, but Wilson had earned her trust over the past 3 months since her transfer. She rolled up her sleeve completely, pointing to the very first mark, darker than the others from years of exposure. Marcos Delgado, fisherman, Cebu Island, Philippines. Caught in a fishing net 20 meters down. Command said conditions were too dangerous, visibility too poor. I went anyway. And he lived. He lived. Maya's voice was soft but resolute. They all lived. Wilson studied her for a moment. Most people would keep a journal. Paper can be lost, destroyed, classified. Maya rolled her sleeve back down. This stays with me. Does anyone know how many? You do now. Wilson leaned back in his chair. 829. That's how many lives you've saved, according to your complete file. But only 229 marks on your arm. The tattoo only counts the ones they told me to let die. The weight of that statement settled between them like a physical presence. I received new orders this morning, Wilson said, changing the subject. We're deploying to the South Pacific. Typhoon season is starting early this year. They're predicting 3 major systems in the next month. Maya nodded. Typhoons meant sinking vessels, stranded civilians, impossible conditions. It meant doing what she was born to do. When do we leave? Tomorrow, 0600. Team of 12 divers, including you and Reed. I'll be ready. As Maya prepared to leave, Wilson stopped her. One more thing. This came for you. He handed her a thick envelope with official Navy insignia. Your complete service record. Unredacted. I pulled some strings. Maya held the envelope like it might burn her. 6 years of being a ghost, of having her past erased, and now it was all here in her hands. Thank you, sir. You deserve to own your story, Chen. All of it. That night, Maya sat cross-legged on her bunk, spreading the documents across her bed. Performance evaluations that called her exceptional beyond measurement. Training records showing scores that broke every established record. Mission reports detailing rescues that seasoned veterans had deemed impossible. And then, buried in the middle, the incident report that had ended it all. South China Sea, 2019. Typhoon Hagibis. A cave system rapidly flooding with 9 civilians trapped inside. Her commanding officer, Captain Elliott, refusing to authorize the rescue, declaring it a regrettable but necessary loss. Maya remembered that night with perfect clarity. The howling wind. The radio in her hand as she requested permission again and again. Elliott's cold voice. Negative, Chen. Those civilians are not our priority. Return to base immediately. And her response, the words that had ended her rescue career. Sir, with respect, I can't do that. She'd removed her communication device after that so she wouldn't have to hear him ordering her back as she prepared her gear. Alone, without backup, she'd entered water that seemed alive with rage, currents that could snap bones. Visibility measured in inches. A cave system filling with water by the minute. 9 civilians had gone in exploring before the storm hit unexpectedly. 9 came out alive, carried one by one through the underwater labyrinth by a woman who refused to let them become regrettable losses. When she returned to base, soaking wet and exhausted, but with every civilian alive, Elliott was waiting. He didn't congratulate her. He didn't acknowledge the lives saved. He simply said, "You disobeyed a direct order. Turn in your equipment. Your dive career is over." The next day, Maya had gotten her first tattoo mark. 9 tiny lines on otherwise unmarked skin. A promise to herself that she would never forget what was truly important. As she packed for tomorrow's deployment, Maya looked at her reflection in the small mirror above her desk. The quiet medic with the perfect bun was gone. In her place stood a woman who had reclaimed her identity, who wore her defiance permanently marked on her skin. Her phone buzzed with a message from Lieutenant Reed. Weather report for deployment zone looks rough. You ready for this? Maya texted back a single word. Always. The South Pacific greeted Naval Special Warfare Rescue Division with fury, as if testing their resolve from the moment they arrived. Typhoon Makani had formed earlier than predicted, a massive system churning the ocean into a frenzy of 30-foot swells and howling winds. They established base operations on the USS Resolute, an amphibious assault ship positioned just outside the typhoon's path. Within hours of their arrival, the first distress calls came in. "Civilian vessel taking on water," Commander Wilson briefed the team. Coordinates put them approximately 20 miles southeast, right on the edge of the storm system. 6 people on board, including 2 children. Maya was already checking her equipment. "Chen, Reed, you'll take point on this. Zhang will handle medical support from the helicopter." "These conditions." Wilson hesitated. "They're at the very edge of what's survivable." Maya met his gaze. "We've operated in worse. That's why you're going. Wheels up in 10. The helicopter flight into the storm's edge was like riding through a washing machine. Maya and Reed sat side by side, checking each other's gear with practiced efficiency. "Reminds me of our training in Norway," Reed shouted over the roar of the engine and wind. "Remember that blizzard?" Maya nodded. "The difference is, that was supposed to be impossible too." Reed grinned. "Impossible just means no one's done it yet." The pilot's voice came through their headsets. "Target vessel in sight. Can't get any closer than this. Wind shear is too extreme." Maya looked out the window. Below them, a pleasure yacht was listing badly to one side, waves washing over its deck. Even from this height, she could see figures huddled under the remnants of a canvas awning. "We'll have to jump," she said to Reed. "Water entry, then swim to the vessel." Reed nodded. "Ladies first." Maya secured her mask, gave the pilot a thumbs up, and jumped. The impact with the water felt like hitting concrete. Instantly, the current tried to seize her, to drag her away from the stricken vessel. Maya fought against it, her powerful strokes cutting through the churning sea with practiced precision. Beside her, Reed matched her pace. They reached the yacht in under 2 minutes. Maya pulled herself aboard, immediately scanning for survivors. "U.S. Navy rescue!" she shouted over the wind. "Where are you?" A man appeared from behind the wheelhouse, soaking wet and terrified. "Here! We're here! My wife, my children. They're below deck. Water's coming in fast." "Show me," Maya ordered, already moving. The yacht's cabin was half flooded, water sloshing violently with each wave that hit the vessel. A woman was keeping 2 small children on top of a table that was bolted to the floor, while an elderly couple clung to a handrail. "Reed, get the adults," Maya called to her partner. "I'll take the children." The mother looked at Maya with desperate hope. "The boat's sinking, isn't it?" "Yes," Maya said simply, "but you're not going to. Trust me." One by one, they fitted each survivor with an emergency harness. Reed established communication with the helicopter, which was holding position despite the violent wind gusts. "Extraction's going to be by winch," Maya explained to the family. "We'll go up 2 at a time. Children first with me, then the parents, then the grandparents with Lieutenant Reed." The first extraction went smoothly. Maya held both children tight against her as the winch pulled them upward through the driving rain. Inside the helicopter, Chief Zhang immediately wrapped the frightened children in thermal blankets. "I'm going back down," Maya told the pilot. "Negative," he shouted. "Vessel is breaking up. Too dangerous." Maya gave him a look that stopped further argument. "There are still 4 people down there. I'm going." She rappelled back down to the yacht, which was now sitting dangerously low in the water. Reed had the parents ready for extraction. "Vessel's not going to last another 5 minutes, he warned as the winch cable descended again. "Get them up," Maya ordered. "I'll prep the grandparents." The elderly couple was struggling. The woman had a deep laceration on her leg from flying debris, and the man was showing signs of hypothermia. "We're going to be okay," Maya assured them as she secured their harnesses. "Just hold on to me." The yacht gave a sickening lurch as its stern began to sink. Water rushed into the cabin with new force. "Reed!" Maya shouted. "Time to go!" But Reed was tangled in debris that had fallen from the yacht's superstructure. A jagged piece of metal had pierced his wetsuit, pinning him to the deck. Blood was spreading in the water around him. "Go!" he yelled. "Get them out!" Maya made a split-second decision. "Change of plans," she told the elderly couple. "You're going up now." She secured them to the winch cable and gave the signal for extraction. As they were lifted clear of the sinking vessel, Maya turned back to Reed. "That was stupid," he gasped as she examined his wound. "Should have gone with them." "And miss all this fun?" Maya worked quickly, cutting away the metal that had trapped him. "Besides, impossible is what we do, remember?" The yacht was now almost vertical, its bow pointing toward the sky as the stern sank deeper. They had seconds, not minutes. "We're going to have to swim for it," Maya said, supporting Reed's weight. "Helicopter can't risk coming back for us here." "My leg will be fine once we get you to Zhang. Ready?" Together they jumped into the churning sea just as the yacht disappeared beneath the waves. Maya kept Reed's head above water, fighting against waves that seemed determined to drown them both. The helicopter was nowhere in sight. "Did they leave us?" Reed shouted over the roar of the storm. "They're repositioning," Maya responded, though she wasn't certain. The storm had intensified, and visibility was down to almost nothing. "Just keep swimming." For 20 minutes, they battled the sea. Reed was weakening, losing blood, despite the pressure bandage Maya had applied before they jumped. Maya herself was tiring, the double burden of swimming and supporting her partner taking its toll. Then, like a miracle, the helicopter appeared through a brief break in the clouds. The winch cable descended, and Maya secured it around Reed. "Both of us," he insisted weakly. "You first," she countered. "That's an order." As Reed was lifted to safety, Maya treaded water alone in the vast, angry sea. The helicopter remained visible above her, but the winch wasn't descending again. Through her communication device, she could hear fragments of the pilot's voice. "Conditions worsening. Can't hold position. Have to abort." Maya understood with sudden clarity. The storm had become too violent. The helicopter couldn't safely remain in position to retrieve her. Protocol dictated they should return to the ship with the survivors they had already rescued. It was the correct decision. The logical decision. The decision that saved the greatest number of lives. It was exactly the kind of decision that had put those marks on her arm. Through the static she heard Reed's voice, weak but determined. "Don't you dare leave her. That's Lieutenant Chen down there. She saved all of us." The helicopter remained, hovering against all safety protocols. The winch began to descend once more, fighting against wind that tried to tangle it, to make it useless. Maya grabbed it with the last of her strength, securing it around herself as she had done for so many others. As she was lifted from the sea, she saw the pilot's face through the window, grim with concentration as he held the aircraft steady in conditions that should have forced him to flee. Inside, Reed was pale, but conscious. "Told you," he said weakly. "Impossible just means no one's done it yet." Maya collapsed beside him, exhausted beyond words. Chief Zhang worked on Reed's leg while checking Maya's vital signs. 6 civilians rescued, Zhang reported. "All stable. Including you two. That makes 8 lives saved today." Maya closed her eyes. 8 more marks for her arm. 8 more defiances against death. But when they returned to the USS Resolute, Maya learned that these would be different. These wouldn't be marks of defiance against orders. Because this time, she had been exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was trained to do. Commander Wilson met them as they disembarked from the helicopter. "Report." 6 civilians rescued, sir," Maya said formally. "Lieutenant Reed injured but stable." Wilson nodded. "The pilot tells me you were nearly left behind." "Weather conditions made extraction difficult, sir." "Yet he stayed, against protocol." "Yes, sir." Wilson studied her for a moment. "He said something interesting. Said he couldn't leave behind the woman who had saved 1,000 lives. Is that number accurate, Chen?" Maya hesitated. "I don't count them all, sir." "Perhaps you should." Over the next 2 weeks, Typhoon Makani was joined by 2 more massive storm systems. The rescue division worked around the clock, pulling people from sinking ships, flooded villages, and collapsing structures. Maya led 14 separate rescue operations, saving 37 lives under conditions that redefined the word impossible. Each night, exhausted beyond measure, she would add marks to her tattoo. Not all of them represented defiance now. Some represented permission granted, trust given, faith rewarded. The lines began to blur between the rescues she had performed in secret and those she now performed with full authority. On the final day of their deployment, as the last typhoon dissipated into merely terrible weather, Maya was summoned to Commander Wilson's quarters. "Sit down, Lieutenant," he said, gesturing to a chair. Maya remained standing. "I prefer to stand, sir." Wilson smiled slightly. "Still not comfortable with authority, are you?" "I respect genuine authority, sir." "That's not what I asked." Wilson leaned against his desk. "I received a communication from Naval Special Operations Command this morning. They're forming a new unit. Rapid response, highest difficulty rescues, complete operational autonomy." Maya said nothing, waiting. "They want you to lead it." She blinked, certain she had misheard. "Sir?" "You heard me. Command team of your choosing. Full authority to make on-site decisions without waiting for approval chains. The unit would deploy globally to situations deemed too dangerous or complex for standard rescue operations." Maya found her voice. "Why me?" Quote, "Because you've spent your career proving that sometimes the rules need to be broken to save lives. Because your judgment has been proven right again and again. Because you've saved more people than anyone in naval rescue history." Wilson handed her a folder. "The details are all in here. Take some time to think about it." Maya accepted the folder automatically. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" "Always." "Is this real? Or is it some kind of test? Because I've had my career destroyed once for doing what I thought was right. I won't survive it happening again." Wilson's expression softened. "It's real, Chen. Times change. Perspectives change. What got you punished 6 years ago is exactly what they want now." Later, alone in her quarters, Maya opened the folder. The proposed unit was officially designated Special Maritime Advanced Rescue Team, SMART. Its mission statement was simple: to save lives deemed unsavable by conventional standards. At the bottom of the proposal was a personal note from the Admiral of Naval Special Operations. "Lieutenant Chen, your career began with you choosing lives over orders. We're offering you the chance to continue that work with our full support. Some rules exist to be followed. Others exist to be challenged by those with the courage and skill to know the difference." Maya closed the folder and rolled up her sleeve. 274 marks now covered her forearm, each one a life saved against the odds. Each one a moment when she had chosen what was right over what was ordered. Her phone buzzed with a text from Reed, who was recovering in the medical bay. "Heard about SMART. You taking it?" Maya typed back. Still deciding. Reed's response came quickly. "Liar. You decided the moment Wilson told you." Maya smiled. He knew her too well. The next morning, she knocked on Wilson's door. "Enter." Maya stood at attention, folder in hand. "I accept the position, sir." Wilson nodded, unsurprised. "Who do you want on your team?" "Reed is my second. Zong for medical. And I want to review the files of every rescue specialist who's ever been disciplined for exceeding their authority to save lives." Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Looking for more people with tattoos like yours? Looking for people who understand that saving lives sometimes means risking everything, including your career. You'll have full access to personnel files." Wilson extended his hand. "Congratulations, Commander Chen." Maya stared at him. "Commander?" "Comes with the position. Field promotion. The paperwork is already processed." As Maya left Wilson's office, her mind reeling from the sudden promotion, she nearly collided with a young ensign who was walking with her head down, reading a document. "Sorry, ma'am," the ensign said quickly, looking up. "No harm done, ensign." Maya glanced at her nameplate. Adams. The young woman was staring at her with undisguised awe. "You're Lieutenant Chen, the one who saved those people during Typhoon Makani." Maya nodded, uncomfortable with the recognition. "Just doing my job, they say." Ensign Adams hesitated. They say you have a tattoo, that you mark every life you save. Is it true? Maya studied the young woman. There was something in her eyes. Not just curiosity or admiration, but something deeper. Recognition, perhaps. Why do you ask, Ensign? Adams hesitated, then slowly rolled up her sleeve. There, on her forearm, was a single mark. Small, precise. My brother, she explained. He was rock climbing when a flash flood hit. No one would go in after him. They said it was too dangerous. She swallowed hard. I couldn't just watch him die. Maya felt a surge of recognition. So you went in yourself? Adams nodded. Everyone said I was crazy, that I almost got myself killed for nothing. But he lived. She looked down at her arm. I put this here so I'd never forget that sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. Maya made a decision. Ensign Adams, how would you feel about a transfer to a new unit? 3 months later, the newly formed SMART unit gathered for their first official mission briefing. 8 rescue specialists, each hand-picked by Commander Chen. Each with their own story of exceeding authority to save lives. Some with their own versions of Maya's tattoo, others with different reminders of moments when they had chosen the right action over the approved one. Research vessel trapped in ice near Antarctica, Maya briefed them. Standard rescue operations deemed impossible due to weather conditions and remoteness of location. 17 scientists on board. Oxygen systems failing. She looked around at her team. International authorities have declared it a regrettable but unpreventable loss. Lieutenant Reed, now fully recovered, grinned. So basically it's Tuesday for us. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Wheels up in 30 minutes. Any questions? Quote, Ensign Adams raised her hand. Ma'am, are we authorized to attempt this rescue? Maya held her gaze. We are authorized to save lives by any means necessary. Sometimes that means working within the system. Sometimes that means working despite it. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing the hundreds of marks that told her story more eloquently than words ever could. Every life matters. Every rescue counts, whether anyone gives us permission or not. As the team prepared for departure, Maya received a message on her secure tablet. It was from Captain Elliot, her former commanding officer who had ended her career. He had heard about her new command and her promotion. Chen, the message read, I still believe you were wrong to disobey my orders that night in the South China Sea. But I can't argue with the results. Congratulations on your new command. Try not to get your people killed, proving how special you are. Maya didn't bother responding. Elliot had never understood. For him, rules were absolutes. For her, they were guidelines that sometimes needed to be broken to serve a higher purpose. Instead, she typed a message to her team. Antarctica weather conditions worsening. Departure moved up to immediate. This will be the most difficult rescue any of you have ever attempted. I chose each of you because you've already proven you'll do whatever it takes to save lives. Today, we prove it again. As they boarded the transport aircraft, Lieutenant Reed fell into step beside her. You know what today is? Maya shook her head. 6 years ago today, you disobeyed orders and saved those 9 people in the cave. The day they ended your career. Maya hadn't realized the significance of the date. Fitting, then. Reed nodded. Full circle. From being punished for saving lives to being given command because of it. As the aircraft took off, Maya thought about those first 9 marks on her arm, and all the ones that had followed. Each one a statement. Some rules matter less than the lives they're supposed to protect. Her new unit didn't know it yet, but Maya had made a private decision. When they rescued those 17 scientists today, and they would rescue them, failure was not an option. She wouldn't be adding any new marks to her tattoo, because from now on she wasn't defying orders to save lives. She was fulfilling them. The tattoo had served its purpose. It had kept her true to herself during the years when the world had tried to make her something less than she was. Now, Maya Chen was exactly who she was meant to be. Not just a medic, not just a diver, but a leader who understood that sometimes saving lives required the courage to risk everything, including your career, your reputation, and your future. Sometimes It meant being willing to be marked forever by your choices, to wear your defiance on your skin for all to see. And sometimes, it meant creating a place where others with that same courage could find their true purpose. As Antarctica appeared on the horizon, a frozen wasteland that had already claimed countless lives, Maya felt a sense of complete certainty. This was where she belonged. This was what she was born to do. "Commander," Reed said beside her, "they're saying the ice pack is impenetrable. No way to reach the vessel." Maya smiled. "What's our unit motto, Lieutenant?" Reed grinned back. "Impossible just means no one's done it yet." Exactly. Maya checked her equipment one final time. Let's go make some history. Because some people don't need permission to save lives. They just need the chance. Antarctica wrapped its frozen embrace around them the moment they stepped off the transport plane. Wind that could freeze, exposed skin in minutes. Visibility that shifted from clear to blinding white in seconds. Cold so intense it made metal brittle and turned breath into ice crystals. Commander Maya Chen led her SMART team across the ice, their specialized equipment designed for the most extreme conditions Earth could produce. Behind them, the transport plane that had delivered them to this desolate outpost was already taxiing for takeoff, unwilling to remain in the deteriorating weather. Last communication from the research vessel came 12 hours ago, Maya briefed as they moved. They're trapped 3 miles offshore in ice that formed with unexpected speed. 17 scientists. Oxygen recycling systems compromised. Temperatures inside the vessel dropping. Antarctic Rescue Coalition deemed extraction impossible due to conditions. Lieutenant Reed adjusted his thermal mask. "What's our approach?" Quote, "3 teams," Maya decided. Team 1 will establish a forward base on the ice edge with emergency medical. Team 2 will handle surface approach with the icebreaking equipment. Team 3 will prepare for underwater extraction if the icebreak fails. She surveyed her team, 8 specialists, handpicked for their unique blend of skills and determination. "Questions?" Ensign Adams spoke up. "Ma'am, ice thickness reports indicate over 6 feet in places. Our equipment isn't rated for." "I know what our equipment is rated for, Ensign," Maya interrupted. "And I know what we're capable of beyond those ratings." Adams nodded, understanding. This was why they were smart. Not because they followed equipment specifications, but because they found ways to exceed them when lives depended on it. The forward base was established with remarkable efficiency. Chief Zhang, their medical specialist, created a heated treatment area while communications expert Petty Officer Navarro established a link with the research vessel. "Commander," Navarro called, "I have Dr. Kendrick, lead scientist on comms." Maya took the radio. "Dr. Kendrick, this is Commander Chen, U.S. Navy Special Maritime Advanced Rescue Team. Report your status." A female voice, strained but controlled, responded. "Commander, we have 17 people aboard. 2 with hypothermia, 1 with a broken arm from when the ice shifted. Oxygen levels at 74% and falling. Internal temperature now at 42 degrees Fahrenheit. How long can you sustain? At current consumption rates, oxygen will reach critical levels in approximately 6 hours. But cold will become life-threatening before that." Maya processed this information with the rapid calculation of someone accustomed to impossible deadlines. "Understood. We're coming for you. Conserve oxygen, concentrate personnel in the smallest sustainable area, share body heat. We'll reach you within 4 hours." She handed the radio back to Navarro, who looked skeptical. 4 hours, ma'am. The ice conditions are challenging but not insurmountable." Maya cut off the doubt before it could spread. "Team 2, prepare the icebreakers. Team 3, suit up for potential underwater deployment." As her team moved to their tasks, Maya pulled Reed aside. "The underwater approach is going to be our primary, not our backup." Reed's eyes widened. "Temperature readings put the water at 28 degrees Fahrenheit, even with our cold water suits." "I know," Maya said quietly. "That's why I'm taking point on the dive. You'll coordinate from here." "With respect, Commander, protocol says, Reed." Maya's voice held no room for argument. "I'm not asking one of my team to take a risk I won't take myself." She rolled up her sleeve slightly, revealing the edge of her tattoo. I've dived in worse. Reed wanted to argue but knew better. This was why Maya commanded smart. Not because she followed protocols, but because she knew when to set them aside. 4-person dive team, he conceded. You, Delgado, Watson, and Adams. Maya raised an eyebrow. Adams? She's the newest member of the team, and she qualified top of her class in cold water operations, Reed countered. Plus, she needs to see how this works firsthand. Maya considered, then nodded. Agreed. Prep the team. The surface ice-breaking operation began as a diversion, a visible attempt that the Antarctic Rescue Coalition could observe from their distant monitoring stations. It would appear that SMART was following conventional rescue approaches, albeit with more determination than most would attempt. Meanwhile, the real rescue was being prepared away from prying satellite feeds. Maya and her dive team donned specialized thermal protection developed for Arctic operations, equipment that technically didn't exist in official inventories. The water temperature is below freezing, Maya explained to her team as they prepared. The suits will give us 20 minutes of optimal function, another 10 of declining capability. After that, hypothermia becomes critical. Adams checked her regulator with methodical precision. The vessel is 3 miles out, even at maximum speed. We're not swimming the entire way, Maya interrupted, pointing to the equipment Delgado was preparing. Underwater propulsion devices. They'll get us there in 8 minutes. And back? Watson asked. Maya met his eyes. We're not coming back without those scientists. The dive entry point was selected carefully, a natural fissure in the ice that provided access to the open water beneath. As Maya prepared to enter, Reed approached with the latest satellite imagery. Ice formation is accelerating, he reported grimly. Whatever you're going to do it fast. Maya nodded, securing her specialized rebreather. Keep the extraction team ready. When we bring those scientists up, they'll need immediate medical attention. Quote. Reed hesitated, then spoke quietly so only she could hear. This is beyond anything we've trained for, Maya. She smiled slightly behind her mask. That's why we're here, isn't it? For the beyond. With that, she slipped into the water, her team following one by one. The shock of the water was immediate and brutal, despite their specialized equipment. Even through the advanced thermal protection, Maya could feel the cold, attempting to seize her muscles, to slow her movements, to shut down her thinking. She activated her underwater propulsion device, her team forming a tight formation behind her. Together they moved beneath the ice sheet, following the coordinates to the trapped research vessel. The underwater world of Antarctica was alien and beautiful. Crystal clear visibility, strange ice formations hanging from the surface like ghostly chandeliers. In any other circumstance, it would have been breathtaking. Now it was merely the obstacle course they had to navigate to save 17 lives. 6 minutes into the dive, Maya's temperature monitor gave its first warning. Core body temperature dropping. She ignored it, pushing forward, adjusting her heading as the vessel's hull came into view, a dark shadow against the white ice above. They reached the vessel in 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Maya signaled the team to spread out, to find access points. The research vessel had specialized underwater hatches for deploying scientific equipment. If they could locate one, they might have a way in. Adams was the one who found it, an equipment deployment hatch on the vessel's port side. She signaled to Maya, who joined her immediately. Together, they examined the hatch mechanism. Maya activated her underwater communication system. Dr. Kendrick, this is Commander Chen. We're outside your port deployment hatch. Can you open it from inside? Static, then the scientist's voice, filled with disbelief. You're outside the vessel? How is that possible? Can you open the hatch? Maya repeated, ignoring the question. Theoretically, yes, but the ice formation has jammed most of our external systems. We've been trying to... We'll open it from here, Maya interrupted. Stand clear and prepare to receive 4 rescue divers. She signaled to Delgado, who carried specialized tools designed for underwater operations. Together they began working on the hatch, fighting against ice that had formed in the mechanism, against systems designed to prevent exactly what they were attempting. Maya's second temperature warning activated. 15 minutes in the water, 5 minutes of optimal function remaining. She worked faster, her movements precise despite the cold attempting to steal her dexterity. With a metallic groan that reverberated through the water, the hatch finally shifted. Maya and her team pulled it open, creating a passage into the research vessel. One by one, they entered, sealing the hatch behind them. The small chamber was designed for deploying scientific equipment, not for human entry, but it served their purpose. Water drained away as they activated the chamber's pressurization system. When the inner door opened, they faced 17 scientists staring at them in shock. U.S. Navy Rescue, Maya announced, removing her diving mask. We're here to get you out. Dr. Kendrick, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight ponytail, stepped forward. How did you... No one's ever... The conditions outside are... We need to move quickly. Maya cut off her questions. Oxygen levels are dropping, and we have limited time before the ice makes extraction impossible. She turned to her team. Adams, Watson, assess the injured and prepare them for transport. Delgado, work with Dr. Kendrick to shut down critical systems safely. Maya activated her communications. Reed, we're inside. 17 scientists confirmed alive. 3 requiring medical attention. Preparing for extraction. Reed's voice came through with relief. Copy that, Commander. Be advised. Satellite shows the ice continuing to thicken. Surface approach is no longer viable. Maya had expected this, understood, proceeding with underwater extraction. She gathered the scientists, who looked at her with a mixture of hope and fear. We're going to take you out the way we came in. Underwater. The objections were immediate. That's impossible. We're not trained divers. The water temperature will kill us. Maya held up her hand, silencing them. We've brought specialized emergency transport equipment. You won't be swimming. You'll be secure and protected. She nodded to Delgado, who began unpacking what looked like collapsed pods from his specialized backpack. The equipment expanded into individual transport units, each capable of safely containing a person during underwater transport. These are emergency personnel transport pods, Maya explained. They're self-contained, thermally protected, and oxygen-enriched. We'll secure you inside and tow you to safety. Dr. Kendrick examined one skeptically. These aren't standard rescue equipment. No, Maya agreed. They're not. Understanding dawned on the scientist's face. You're not a standard rescue team. No, Maya said simply. We're not. The preparation moved with practiced efficiency. The scientists were briefed, the injured stabilized, the pods prepared. Each pod would be tethered to one of the rescue divers, who would use their propulsion devices to tow them back to the extraction point. Maya checked her team's status. Their exposure time in the freezing water had taken a toll. Their equipment could handle one more extended dive, but it would push the absolute limits of safety. Each of us will tow 4 pods, she informed her team. Adams, you'll take 3, plus the one with the broken arm. 17 scientists, 4 rescue divers, Watson observed. That's 16. Maya nodded. Dr. Kendrick will share my pod. We need her expertise if something goes wrong with the vessel's systems during evacuation. The scientist looked startled. Commander, I should be the last to leave. As the expedition leader, your knowledge is too valuable to risk. Maya cut her off. If something fails during evacuation, we need you available to advise. The real reason went unspoken. Maya wanted the expedition leader where she could personally ensure her safety. Leaders who tried to be last off sinking ships often didn't make it off at all. As the final preparations were made, Maya received another communication from Reed. Commander, weather deteriorating rapidly. Surface team reports near whiteout conditions. Once you start extraction, you'll have a 20-minute window before the evacuation point becomes unusable. Maya acknowledged the information with grim determination. 20 minutes to transport 17 people through freezing water, under solid ice for 3 miles. Beyond challenging. Beyond reasonable. Beyond what any conventional rescue would attempt. Exactly the kind of mission SMART was created for. Everyone clear on the plan? Maya asked her team. Nods all around. Then, let's move. The scientists were secured in their pods, each connected to life support systems that would maintain oxygen and temperature during transit. The injured were given additional medical support by Chief Zhang's instructions, administered by Watson, who had advanced medical training. Maya and Dr. Kendrick would go last, ensuring everyone else was safely away before they followed. As the first group prepared to re-enter the water, Maya pulled Adams aside. "This is your first impossible mission," she said quietly. "Remember, focus on the lives in your care, not on the conditions around you. The cold, the distance, the time limits. They're just variables to be managed, not barriers that define what's possible." Adams nodded, her expression determined beneath her diving mask. "I understand, Commander. Good, because I chose you for this team for a reason. You have the same thing I saw in every member of SMART, the unwillingness to accept that some people can't be saved." The extraction began. 4 scientists at a time, each team of pods tethered to a rescue diver, disappearing back into the freezing water through the equipment hatch. Maya coordinated from inside, maintaining communication with Reed at the extraction point, adjusting the timing of each departure. Finally, only Maya and Dr. Kendrick remained. "Your turn," Maya said, helping the scientist into the last pod. "What about you?" Kendrick asked. Maya indicated the space in the pod. "It's designed for 2 in an emergency. Like I said, we're sharing." As they prepared to enter the water, Kendrick studied Maya's face. "You've done this before, haven't you? Not just rescue missions, but the impossible ones. The ones no one else would attempt." Maya secured the pod's oxygen system. "Let's just say I have a history of disagreeing with the definition of impossible." They entered the water last, Maya powering the propulsion device with one hand while securing the pod with the other. The cold hit her immediately, more intense now after her body had begun to warm inside the vessel. Her temperature monitor went straight to warning status, bypassing the initial alerts. The return journey was a battle against time, against cold, against the increasing formation of ice above them. Maya pushed the propulsion device beyond its rated capacity, her muscles straining to maintain their course through waters that seemed determined to hold them back. Halfway to the extraction point, her communications crackled with Reed's voice. "Commander, be advised, ice at extraction point thickening rapidly. Surface team is having difficulty maintaining the opening." Maya didn't waste breath responding. She increased their speed, pushing harder, ignoring the warnings now flashing across her diving mask's heads-up display. Core temperature dangerously low. Oxygen consumption elevated. Recommended surfacing immediate. Through the clear Antarctic water, she could see the other pods ahead, her team members towing their charges toward the rapidly diminishing exit point. They were going to make it. They had to make it. 3/4 of the way back, Maya's propulsion device sputtered. The extreme cold had affected its power cells faster than anticipated. She switched to manual power, kicking with strength born of desperate determination, still pulling Dr. Kendrick's pod through the freezing water. Her vision began to narrow, a clear sign of hypothermia setting in. Maya fought against it, focusing on the extraction point now visible ahead, a small, dark opening in the white ice ceiling above them. She could see Watson and Delgado already helping their pods through the opening. Adams was next, maneuvering her charges toward the surface. Maya pushed harder, refusing to be the one who failed, refusing to leave anyone behind. The final approach to the extraction point was the hardest. The water seemed thicker, her movements sluggish. The cold had penetrated her suit, seeping into her muscles, trying to shut down her body's systems. She reached the opening as Adams was extracting her final pod. The young ensign turned, saw Maya struggling, and immediately dove back down to help. Together, they pushed Dr. Kendrick's pod through the opening, where Reed and the surface team pulled it onto the ice. Maya was last, her strength nearly gone, as Adams and Reed pulled her from the water. The bitter Antarctic air felt almost warm compared to the water as they quickly removed her diving equipment and wrapped her in thermal blankets. All scientists accounted for, Reed reported as the medical team worked to raise her body temperature. 17 rescued, all alive. The injured are already en route to the transport plane. Maya tried to speak, but her lips wouldn't cooperate. Reed leaned closer. "You did it," he said simply. "The impossible mission is complete." As feeling returned to her extremities, painful and burning, Maya became aware of a figure standing nearby. Dr. Kendrick, wrapped in thermal blankets but standing under her own power, watching the rescue team with undisguised awe. "Your team," the scientist said when she saw Maya looking at her. "They told me about you while we were waiting. About the tattoo. About what it means." Maya didn't respond. Her tattoo was personal, not something to be discussed with strangers. "They told me you mark every life you save against orders, or against impossible odds," Kendrick continued. "They said there are hundreds." 274, Maya managed to say, her voice rough from the cold. 291 now, Kendrick corrected, gesturing to the evacuation area where the rescued scientists were being prepared for transport. "You'll need more space on your arm." Maya shook her head slightly. "Not marking them anymore. Don't need to." Kendrick's eyebrows rose. "Why not?" "Because now I have permission. Now it's my job to do the impossible." The scientist considered this. Permission changes the meaning, but not the achievement. She pulled something from her pocket, a small, waterproof journal. "We all thought we were going to die. I was writing final notes for our families." She opened the journal to a blank page, tore it out, and pressed it into Maya's hand. "Some achievements should still be marked, Commander, not as defiance anymore, but as a testament. To remind the world that impossible is just a word used by people who haven't met someone like you yet." The evacuation to the transport plane was completed in near whiteout conditions. The SMART team was the last aboard, ensuring every scientist was safely secured before allowing themselves the luxury of rest. As the plane took off, climbing above the Antarctic storm, Maya looked around at her team. Adams was sleeping, exhausted by her first impossible mission, but having performed flawlessly. Delgado and Watson were checking equipment, already preparing for whatever would come next. Reed sat beside her, reviewing the mission data. "Command will want a full report," he said. "How exactly do we explain that we accomplished what the entire Antarctic Rescue Coalition deemed impossible?" Maya smiled slightly. "We tell them the truth, that impossible is a relative term, dependent entirely on who's attempting the rescue." She looked down at her arm, where beneath her thermal suit lay the record of her career, each mark a life that someone had decided couldn't or shouldn't be saved. Each mark a moment when she had decided differently. Today's 17 rescues wouldn't be added to that record, not because they mattered less, but because they represented something different. Not defiance against a system that would let people die, but the beginning of a system designed to save those that others would abandon. When they landed at McMurdo Station 12 hours later, Maya was surprised to find Admiral Harrison waiting. The head of Naval Special Operations rarely met teams in the field, preferring to coordinate from command headquarters. "Commander Chen," he greeted her formally as she disembarked. "Walk with me." They moved away from the bustle of the arriving transport, finding relative privacy near the edge of the landing area. 17 lives saved, the Admiral said without preamble, in conditions that 3 separate international rescue organizations deemed unsurvivable. Maya stood at attention. "Yes, sir." "The scientific community is calling it a miracle. The media is asking how it was possible. Several countries have already reached out about your methods." "We simply did what needed to be done, sir." Admiral Harrison studied her. "No, Commander? You did what everyone else said couldn't be done. There's a difference." He handed her a secure tablet. 3 new situations have developed while you were in transit. A mining collapse in Siberia. Climbers stranded on K2 during an unexpected blizzard. A submarine trapped under an ice shelf in the Arctic. Maya reviewed the information quickly. Each situation had already been assessed by conventional rescue operations. Each had been deemed too dangerous, too remote, or too complex for standard approaches. Each had been effectively abandoned. "All 3 have been flagged for smart intervention," Harrison continued. Your team can rest for 24 hours, then deploy to whichever situation you deem most urgent. Maya looked up from the tablet. All of them are urgent, sir. All of them involve lives that will be lost without immediate intervention. So what are you suggesting, Commander? I'm suggesting we split the team. 3 operations, 3 teams. I'll take the submarine myself with Adams and Delgado. Reed can lead the mining operation with Zhang and Navarro. Watson can take the remaining specialists to K2. The Admiral looks skeptical. Each situation would challenge your entire team at full strength. You're proposing to tackle all 3 with reduced resources? I'm proposing to save everyone we can, sir, not just the ones that fit neatly into our operational parameters. Harrison was quiet for a moment, then nodded. That's why I put you in command, Chen. Because you've never accepted that some people are beyond saving. As the Admiral walked away, Maya found herself approached by a young lieutenant from the base communications center. Commander Chen? We received a secure transmission for you personally. He handed her a small data drive. It came with specific instructions that only you should view it. Curious, Maya took the drive to a secure terminal inside the base operations building. The file contained a single video message. When she activated it, she was surprised to see Captain Elliot, the man who had ended her diving career 6 years ago. Chen, he began, his face older but his expression still as stern as she remembered. I've been following the reports of your new command. Your recent Antarctic rescue has made quite an impression in certain circles. He paused, seeming to struggle with what to say next. I want to be clear. I still believe you were insubordinate. I still believe military discipline requires following orders without question. Another pause. But I've had 6 years to reflect on what happened in the South China Sea, on the 9 lives you saved by disobeying me. Elliot looked away from the camera briefly. Last month, my granddaughter was caught in a flash flood in Colorado. She would have died if a park ranger hadn't gone into the water against direct orders from his supervisor, who deemed the conditions too dangerous. He looked back directly into the camera. That park ranger risked his career to save my granddaughter's life. Just like you risked yours to save those civilians I ordered you to abandon. Elliot's expression softened slightly. I was wrong, Chen. Not about the importance of following orders, but about which orders deserve to be followed. Some orders protect the system at the expense of the people the system is meant to serve. He straightened, his military bearing reasserting itself. I've submitted formal documentation to have your original insubordination charge removed from your permanent record. It won't change what happened, but it will ensure that history remembers you accurately, not as someone who couldn't follow orders, but as someone who had the courage to question orders that deserve to be questioned. The message ended, leaving Maya staring at the blank screen. 6 years after he had destroyed her career, the man who had tried to erase her was now trying to restore her official history. She found it didn't matter as much as she might have expected. Her real history was marked permanently on her skin, in the lives she had saved, in the team she now led. That evening, as her team prepared for their 3 separate missions, Maya gathered them together for a final briefing. Tomorrow, we deploy to 3 different locations, each with its own impossible challenges, she told them. Each with lives that others have decided cannot be saved. She looked at each team member, seeing in their eyes the same determination that had driven her own career. When I started marking rescues on my arm, it was an act of defiance, a record of lives saved against orders, against protocol, against what everyone said was possible. But somewhere along the way, it became something else. Not a record of defiance, but a reminder of possibility. Maya rolled up her sleeve, showing the marks that covered her forearm. Each of these represents someone who is alive today because someone, me in this case, refused to accept that they couldn't be saved. She looked at Ensign Adams with her single mark. At the others, some with their own versions of Maya's record, others with different reminders of what drove them. That's what SMART is about. Not just pushing boundaries or breaking rules. It's about redefining what's possible in rescue operations. It's about never accepting that anyone is beyond saving. As they dispersed to make their final preparations, Reed remained behind. "You're not adding the Antarctic scientists to your tattoo," he observed. "You said it was because you now have permission. But I think it's something else." Maya smiled slightly. "You know me too well. So what is it? Why stop now when you're finally doing exactly what you were meant to do?" Maya considered her answer carefully. "The tattoo was never about the number. It was about remembering who I really was during those years when the world tried to make me something else. Now I don't need the reminder anymore." She glanced toward where her team was preparing equipment for tomorrow's missions. "Now, I have something better than marks on my skin. I have a team of people who see the world the way I do, as a place where impossible is just a challenge waiting to be overcome." Reed nodded in understanding. "So what happens to the tattoo?" "It stays," Maya said simply, "as a reminder of where I came from, of what it cost to get here, and of all the lives that might have been lost if I'd followed the rules." She gathered her equipment, preparing for tomorrow's submarine rescue mission. But the future isn't about marks on skin anymore. It's about changing how the world defines what's possible. As she headed to her quarters for a few hours of much-needed rest, Maya found herself thinking about that first rescue, the one that had cost her career but saved 9 lives. About how what had seemed like an ending had actually been the beginning of something much greater. Sometimes, she reflected, the most important journeys begin with a single act of defiance, with the courage to say no to an order that would let people die, with the willingness to risk everything, career, reputation, future, to do what you know is right. And sometimes, that journey leads to places you never imagined possible, to a team of like-minded individuals dedicated to redefining the very concept of rescue, to missions that change not just individual lives, but the entire approach to saving lives. Maya Chen had begun her journey as a defiant diver with 9 marks on her arm. She would continue it as the commander of an elite unit, dedicated to proving that no one was beyond saving, no situation too dangerous, no rescue truly impossible. The tattoo that had once marked her defiance would remain, but its meaning had evolved. Now it stood as a testament not just to lives saved, but to a simple, powerful truth. Sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones no one notices until the storm hits. And they're the only ones willing to dive into it. The USS Relentless cut through the night waters of the South China Sea, its silhouette barely visible against the dark horizon. On the deck, Commander Maya Chen stood alone, watching the distant coastline, where 6 years ago her career had been destroyed and her true purpose revealed. "Thought I'd find you here," Lieutenant Reed said, joining her at the railing. "Can't sleep before a big op?" Maya shook her head slightly. "Just remembering. Tomorrow marked exactly 1 year since the formation of SMART. 1 year of redefining what was possible in rescue operations. 1 year of saving lives that conventional wisdom had deemed unsavable. And now they had returned to where it all began." "Poetic, isn't it?" Reed observed. "Your first SMART mission back in the same waters where you got that first mark." He nodded toward her arm, where beneath her uniform sleeve lay the tattoo that had revealed her true history. "I don't believe in coincidences," Maya replied, "but I do believe in coming full circle." The mission briefing had come directly from Naval Special Operations Command. A prototype research submarine had gone missing during a classified test dive. Last known position: less than 20 miles from the cave system where Maya had rescued 9 civilians against orders 6 years ago. 23 crew members. Oxygen reserves for 48 hours. And a storm system approaching that would make surface rescue impossible within 12 hours. By the time conventional rescue assets could be deployed, it would be too late. Which was why SMART had been activated. "How's the team?" Maya asked, shifting focus to the present. "Ready," Reed assured her. "Delgado and Watson are prepping the new deep dive equipment. Adams is running final checks on the underwater mapping system. Zhang has the medical bay prepared for 23 potentially hypothermic patients." Maya nodded, her mind already mapping out the operation. "And the new technology?" "The prototype acoustic imaging system is online. If the submarine is where we think it is, we should be able to locate it, despite the challenging underwater terrain." What Reed didn't say What neither of them needed to articulate was that this mission was different. Not just because of its location, but because of what was at stake. This wasn't just another impossible rescue. This was a statement. Proof that the philosophy behind SMART was changing how the military approached the very concept of impossible. "Get some rest," Maya told him. "We deploy at 0500. Reed hesitated. "You should rest too, Commander. Tomorrow will push all of us to our limits." "I will," Maya promised. Soon. After Reed left, Maya remained at the railing, her thoughts drifting between past and present. The last year had transformed SMART from an experimental unit to a legendary one. 3 simultaneous impossible rescues completed successfully, 38 lives saved from the Siberian mine collapse, 12 climbers extracted from K2 during conditions that had grounded all other rescue attempts, 9 submariners rescued from beneath the Arctic ice. And those were just the beginning. Each mission had pushed the boundaries of what conventional wisdom deemed possible. Each success had validated Maya's core belief that with the right team, the right mindset, and the unwavering determination to save lives at any cost, nothing was truly beyond reach. Her phone vibrated with an incoming message. The name on the screen surprised her: Captain Elliot. The message was brief. Heard SMART was deploying to the South China Sea. History doesn't need to repeat itself. Do it by the book this time, Chen. Maya smiled slightly. Despite his apology months ago, Elliot still didn't fully understand. It had never been about following or breaking rules. It had always been about saving lives, whatever that required. She didn't bother responding. Tomorrow's mission would speak for itself. At 0430, Maya joined her team for final briefing. The operations center aboard USS Relentless hummed with focused energy as SMART's 8 specialists gathered around the holographic display showing their target area. Latest intelligence puts the submarine in this region, Maya indicated a deep trench on the seabed map. Approximately 600 feet down, potentially lodged in an underwater cave system. Surface conditions deteriorating rapidly, with Typhoon Makoto approaching from the east. She moved through the mission parameters with practiced efficiency. Standard rescue operations have been deemed impossible due to depth, underwater terrain, and approaching weather. Which is precisely why we're here. The team nodded, understanding. They had all been selected for the same quality. The refusal to accept that any rescue was truly impossible. This will be a 3-phase operation, Maya continued. Phase 1, acoustic mapping team will deploy to locate the submarine's exact position. Phase 2, deep penetration team will establish contact and assess the situation. Phase 3, full extraction of all 23 crew members. She looked at each team member. "Questions?" Ensign Adams spoke up. "Ma'am, the weather reports indicate we have a 9-hour window before the typhoon makes surface operations impossible. Can we complete full extraction in that time frame?" It was a good question. The kind that demonstrated why Adams had earned her place on the team despite her relative inexperience. "We'll have to," Maya replied simply. "Because there won't be a second chance." Quote, the deployment began precisely at 0500. Maya led the acoustic mapping team, using SMART's prototype technology to create a detailed 3-dimensional image of the underwater terrain. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The submarine is wedged in a narrow crevice at 623 feet, Maya reported to the operations center. The main hatch appears to be blocked by debris. We'll need to access through the emergency escape trunk. Captain Rivera, the USS Relentless's commanding officer, frowned at the holographic display. That depth exceeds standard rescue parameters, even with your specialized equipment. "We're aware of the risks, Captain," Maya interrupted politely but firmly. "But 23 people are down there with depleting oxygen. The choice isn't between risk and safety, it's between risk and certain death." Rivera hesitated, then nodded. "Proceed, Commander, but maintain continuous communication. If conditions deteriorate beyond acceptable parameters, I will order an immediate abort." Maya acknowledged the order, knowing that acceptable parameters was a relative term. What was unacceptable to conventional rescue operations was standard procedure for SMART. Phase 2 began immediately. Maya, Reed, and Delgado formed the deep penetration team, using advanced submersible technology to reach the crippled submarine. The descent was challenging, the pressure increasing with every foot, the darkness nearly absolute despite their powerful lights. Visual contact established, Maya reported, as the submarine came into view. Significant damage to the hull, but integrity appears maintained in the main compartments. She guided their submersible to the emergency escape trunk, which fortunately remained accessible. Using specialized equipment, they established a secure connection and pressurized the linkage. USS Hammerhead. This is Commander Chen, U.S. Navy Special Maritime Advanced Rescue Team. Do you copy? For several agonizing seconds, there was no response. Then, crackling through the communication system. This is Lieutenant Commander Zhao, USS Hammerhead. We copy. How? How did you find us? We're here to extract you and your crew, Maya responded, bypassing the question. Report your status. 23 personnel aboard. All alive but 2 injured from the initial incident. Hull breach in the engine room. Contained but limiting our power. Oxygen at 27% and falling. Life support systems on emergency power. Maya processed this information quickly. Understood. We're establishing extraction protocols now. Prepare your crew for evacuation in groups of 4. As Reed and Delgado worked to secure the connection, Maya received an urgent communication from the surface. Commander, Typhoon accelerating toward your position, Captain Rivera reported. New estimates give you 5 hours before surface extraction becomes impossible, not 9. Maya acknowledged the update grimly. 5 hours to extract 23 people from 623 feet below the surface, with each extraction requiring careful decompression protocols to prevent potentially fatal cases of the bends. It couldn't be done. Not by any standard rescue calculation. We need to modify our approach, she told Reed and Delgado. Standard decompression protocols will take too long. Reed looked concerned. The alternative is saturation diving principles with accelerated decompression in the hyperbaric chamber aboard Relentless, Maya finished. Yes, I know. It's experimental and risky. But it's their only chance, Delgado added, understanding immediately. Maya nodded. Exactly. She reopened communication with the submarine. Lieutenant Commander Zhao, we're implementing emergency protocol Sierra Alpha Tango. Are you familiar with the procedure? There was a pause. That's the experimental rapid decompression protocol. It's not approved for field use. It is now, Maya replied, because it's the only way to get all of you out before the typhoon hits. Another pause, longer this time. Maya could almost hear the submarine commander weighing options that didn't exist. Understood, Commander, Zhao finally responded. We'll follow your lead. The extraction began immediately. The first group of 4 submariners transferred through the emergency trunk into SMART's specialized transport vehicle. Maya supervised personally, ensuring each person understood the modified decompression protocols they would undergo upon reaching the surface. As the transport vehicle ascended with Reed at the controls, Maya and Delgado prepared for the next group. The process was painstaking despite their accelerated timeline. Each person had to be carefully monitored for signs of decompression sickness even during the ascent. 3 hours into the operation, they had successfully extracted 16 of the 23 crew members. 7 remained, including the 2 injured, and Lieutenant Commander Zhao, who had insisted on being last. That was when the underwater tremor hit. It wasn't an earthquake. More likely an underwater landslide triggered by the approaching typhoon's effect on ocean currents. But the result was devastating. The submarine shifted, the emergency trunk connection becoming unstable. Structural integrity compromised, Delgado reported, checking the sensors. We need to complete extraction immediately or risk losing the connection entirely. Maya made a quick decision. Prepare the remaining crew for simultaneous extraction. We'll take all 7 in one trip. The transport vehicle is rated for 6 in emergency conditions, Delgado pointed out. 7 plus the 2 of us. We'll have to fit, Maya finished. We don't have time for another trip. She contacted the submarine. Commander Zhao, we need to evacuate all remaining personnel immediately. Prepare for emergency extraction protocols. The remaining 7 submariners were transferred to the transport vehicle with urgent efficiency. 2 were on stretchers, the others assisting. Last came Zhao himself, looking exhausted but composed. "Everyone accounted for?" Maya confirmed. Zhao nodded. "Yes, but—" He looked at the cramped transport vehicle. "There's not enough room for all of us, plus you and your officer." Maya had already reached the same conclusion. The math was simple but brutal. 9 people. Space for 8 at absolute maximum. "Delgado, take command of the transport vehicle," she ordered. "Get them to the surface." Delgado's eyes widened. "Commander, what about you?" "I'll use the emergency ascent system in our dive gear." "That's a 600-foot free ascent," Delgado protested. "Even with the emergency system, the risk of—" "is acceptable," Maya cut him off. "Now go. That's an order." Zhao stepped forward. "Commander, I can't allow you to—" "This isn't about allowing, Commander Zhao," Maya interrupted. "This is about 23 lives against 1. The calculation is simple." Before further objections could be raised, Maya sealed the transport vehicle's hatch from the outside. Through the viewport, she could see Delgado's face, a mixture of protest and understanding. She gave him a single nod, and he reluctantly began the ascent protocols. Alone now beside the damaged submarine, Maya checked her emergency ascent system. The specialized equipment was designed for exactly this scenario: a rapid ascent when standard decompression wasn't possible. It would flood her bloodstream with compounds designed to prevent nitrogen buildup, theoretically allowing a faster ascent without fatal decompression sickness. Theoretically. It had never been tested at this depth in actual field conditions. As she prepared to begin her ascent, Maya's communication system activated. "Commander Chen," Captain Rivera's voice came through. "Our sensors show the transport vehicle ascending with 8 signatures aboard. Where are you?" "Implementing emergency protocol Echo Alpha," Maya responded calmly. "Solo emergency ascent." There was a moment of stunned silence. "That protocol is untested at your depth. The risk of is noted and accepted," Maya finished. "The transport vehicle couldn't accommodate everyone. Someone had to stay behind. And you chose yourself." Rivera's voice held a mixture of frustration and reluctant admiration. "Would you expect me to choose someone else?" "Ready for this?" Reed asked, joining her at the railing. Maya nodded. "More than ready." In the years since the South China Sea rescue, SMART had continued to redefine what was possible. Under Reed's leadership, they had completed 17 impossible missions, saving 142 lives that conventional rescue operations had deemed beyond reach. Now, with Maya's return, they were about to embark on their most ambitious mission yet: the establishment of SMART Academy, a training facility designed to spread their philosophy and methods throughout the entire rescue community. "The first class arrives tomorrow," Reed informed her. 36 candidates from 12 different countries. All top performers in their respective rescue services. "And all recommended because they've shown the same quality," Maya added. "The refusal to accept that anyone is beyond saving." As the sun set over the horizon, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a disgraced diver with 9 marks on her arm, to the commander of an elite unit that was changing the very concept of rescue operations worldwide. From hiding who she was to embracing it fully. From defying orders in secret to creating a new approach that was being adopted as the standard. She touched her forearm, feeling the slight raised lines of her tattoo beneath her uniform sleeve. 274 marks. 274 lives. Each one a moment when she had chosen what was right over what was ordered. She didn't need to add more marks now. The tattoo had served its purpose, keeping her true to herself during the years when the world had tried to make her something less than she was. Now her legacy would be measured not in marks on skin, but in lives saved by those she trained. In the ripple effect as her philosophy spread throughout the rescue community. In the word impossible, being used less and less as an excuse to abandon those in need. "Commander," an ensign approached, handing her a tablet. "Final roster for tomorrow's incoming class." Maya scrolled through the names, stopping at one that caught her attention. Isabel Torres. "From the Philippines?" Reed smiled. "Marco's mother. The boy who wanted to become a rescue diver because of you. Turns out, she was inspired too." joined the Philippine Coast Guard 3 years ago, quickly became their top rescue specialist. Maya remembered the letter she had received after her first mission was smart. The one that had reminded her that saving lives inspired more than just gratitude. It inspired others to save lives too. The ripple effect in action. As the last light faded from the sky, Maya looked out at the vast ocean stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, people would need saving tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. Some would be in situations deemed impossible by conventional standards. Beyond reach. Beyond hope. But Maya Chen and her smart team would be there. And the specialists they trained would be there. And the ripple would continue to spread, challenging the very definition of what was possible in rescue operations. Because Maya had learned the most important lesson of all, the word impossible was just that, a word. It had no power except what people gave it, and she had chosen to give it none. Her tattoo would remain, a permanent record of her journey, but her legacy would be something far greater, a world where no one was considered beyond saving. Where the question wasn't, can they be rescued, but how will we rescue them? A world where ordinary people did extraordinary things, not because they were special, but because they refused to accept limitations when lives were at stake. As she turned to prepare for tomorrow's first class, Maya thought about what she would tell these new recruits, about the philosophy that had guided her from that first rescue to the creation of an entirely new approach. She would tell them that courage wasn't about fearlessness, but about feeling the fear and acting anyway. That heroism wasn't about recognition, but about doing what needed to be done when no one was watching. That saving lives wasn't about protocols or equipment or even skills, but about the unwavering determination to reach those in need, whatever it took. And she would show them her tattoo, not as a badge of honor, but as a reminder that sometimes the most important journeys begin with a single act of defiance. With the courage to say no to an order that would let people die. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary people are the ones no one notices until the storm hits. And they're the only ones willing to dive into it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.